When we talk about force, the first question which arises is what is force? And the main basic question what a student asks is why should we need it? Why should we study it? What is the purpose of having this force? Basically, when someone pushes you in field while you are playing, when your car broke down and you have to push it, when you try to press an inflated balloon, when you stretch a rubber band, when you close a door, when you open a door, when you kick a ball, when you throw a ball, when you try to grab and hold a moving ball, basically when you are the goalkeeper of your team for any ball game. Everywhere force is applied. Everywhere. When you pick any ball or bottle or book from the ground, oops, sir, we are picking it up. We are not pushing it. We are not pulling it. But bacha, you are actually pulling it against gravity. So yes, force is applied. When you have a flat tire situation and you push your cycle. When you are digging a hole in anything, it may be ground or in cardboard or anywhere. And last but not least, while playing tug of war. Force is applied in every action we do. Thus, we see that to move an object or to stop the motion of an object, it has to be either push or pull. Hence, we call the definition of the force is a push or a pull on an object is called force, or a push or a pull that changes or tends to change the state of rest of or uniform motion of an object or change its direction or shape. Suppose a ball was stationary, it was not moving, it was just capped in the ball ground. When you kick it, it gains some motion. Initially it was at rest. Initially it was in a state of rest. Now it has uniform, non-uniform motion. That is another thing, but it has a motion when you kick it. Because of the force which was applied by you on the ball gained a motion. And this motion is in a direction. And if you look at through very slow moving cameras, we can easily find that when you are kicking the ball, you are actually changing the shape of a ball also. So everywhere force is required. When you look around yourself or your surrounding, you will see a number of things which work with a push or pull. These all objects or these all things which are happening because of either push or pull are basically happening because of force. After studying two questions, what is force and why should we study? Now the next question which arises is how does the force affect the body? How your daily workings or daily things are getting affected by the force? Basically, force force causes all types of motion. If you are concerned about any motion, it is happening because of any or some sort of force which is acting on it. Force can make an object to move from rest, like kicking a stationary ball. Or think of a cricket game when the bowler is holding the ball is stationary. The moment he throws the ball gains a motion. It can stop a moving object like a catch in the cricket game. It can change the direction of a motion like uh, ball when it is getting hitted by a bat when the batsman strike the ball. Or when any soccer player strike the ball, basically he is changing the direction. It can change the shape of an object, like making chapati. When your mother is rolling down the chapatis, what is happening? She is changing the shape. I continuously said that force cause motion, but it is not necessary that force can always bring a stationary object in motion. It is dependent upon the force, the amount of force which is applied. Look in this picture. In this picture, a boy is trying to push a wall. Or if I say you to push the wall, would it be possible for you to push the wall? Even it's not possible for me, or not possible for any Khali or any Superman. Reason: the weight of the wall is very large, and because of being that much huge weight, when you are trying to push it, you have to make sure that you are applying enough force to move it. But the problem is, the force which is applied by you or me or anyone is not up to that mark which can create motion in that wall. But in same manner, if I ask a bulldozer, a machine, to do this work, it can be easily done by the machine or the bulldozer. The reason is, when the bulldozer is applying force on the wall, basically it is applying so much force which can move the wall or break the wall. Next is cause of a force. Basically, for anything to have force or to apply force, to gain force or to apply force, there has to be two objects or two bodies. Whenever a force is applied, there is interaction between two bodies. Look at these two gears. If red gear is not there, green will not move by itself. Red is needed for green to be moved. For example, when you are applying force on the pedals of your cycle, the chain is acting as an interaction between your wheel and the pedal. If I remove the chain, the wheel will not work. So that chain is providing the interaction between the two bodies. In other words, we can say that an interaction between at least two bodies is necessary. At least two bodies. There has to be a minimum of two bodies for an interaction. For example, when you want to kick a ball, there has to be a ball. If there is no ball on which you are kicking, then why are you kicking? You are wasting your energy. And when you are kicking a ball, you are applying force on it. So there is an interaction between your feet and the ball. So there are two objects, you and the ball. The next topic here is magnitude of force or net force, or I should say total force. Look at the two guys who are trying to move sofa from one place to another. Both are applying some sort of force. Okay, here I missed one thing, that the SI unit of force is Newton. Now it is represented as capital N. Now these two boys are taking sofa in a direction. So both are moving in same direction. So if two forces act on a body in same direction, the net force is the sum of two forces. So both were one was applying 25 Newton, another was applying 20 Newton. So the grand total is 45 Newton. But in another situation, when two soccer players are applying force in opposite direction, one is applying 125 Newton and another is applying 75 Newton. So the resultant will be the difference in their forces. So the definition wise, we can say, if two forces act on a body in opposite direction, the net force is the difference between the two forces. The resultant force will be the difference, because the resultant force is the difference because there are two forces which are acting in opposite direction. the one which will be having the greater force will be able to move. For example, uh, take example of a wall. If you are trying to move the wall, and from another side, if a bulldozer is trying to move the wall, you know the answer. The bulldozer or the machine will be able to move the wall because it will be applying more energy or more force. Hence, the force in opposite direction, to calculate the net force or the magnitude force or the total force or the resultant force, we have to subtract it. So the word for subtract is difference. And when in same direction, it is simply addition, or the word is sum. The next topic which arises here is what is balanced force and what is unbalanced force. So first of all, taking the question of balanced force, when a number of forces acting on a body do not cause any change in its state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line, then the forces are said to be in balanced force. In other words, a body is said to be under balanced forces when the resultant force acting on the body is zero, or more simply, when on any object two forces of equal size act in opposite or opposing directions is known as balanced force. Okay. Uh, in balanced force, a body continues to be either in the rest position, or if moving, then will move with the same speed or velocity and in the same direction, because balanced force is applied on it. Understood? Here in this example, this pony is applying exactly opposite force as to the owner. So because both are applying force in opposite directions, so the total force, net force, is getting nullified. Next is unbalanced force. When the resultant force of all the forces, I'm again and again using this word resultant force. This resultant force is nothing, just meaning net force. Okay. When the resultant force of all the forces acting on a body is not zero, these forces are called unbalanced force. Okay. Or for more I should say clarification, when two forces of unequal magnitudes act in opposite direction, unequal magnitudes means value, unequal magnitudes act in opposite directions on an object simultaneously, then object moves in the direction of a large force. These forces acting on the object are known as unbalanced force. Another definition is written in this slide. When two forces acting in opposite direction on a body and these are not equal in value and in size is known as unbalanced force. In an unbalanced force, a body changes its position. That is, we can observe a moving object changing its direction, either increasing the speed or decreasing the speed, and a body at rest starts to move, and if it is already moving, then it will come to rest. Anything can happen in this unbalanced force. Look at the soccer player. Ball was initially at rest. When he kicked the ball start moving. So because unbalanced force is applied, no one is there to stop the ball, so the ball start moving. Aristotle, a great philosopher, believed that to maintain the motion of bodies or objects, a continuous push or pull was needed. However, this concept of motion was totally rejected by a great physicist, Galileo Galilei, in 17th century. He gave the famous principle of inertia. According to this principle, when no unbalanced force acts on a body at rest, then it continues in the state of rest. Moreover, when unbalanced force act on a body moving with a constant velocity, then it continues in that state of motion. He verified this by performing the following experiment. Consider a double inclined plane as shown in the first figure. The surfaces of these planes are very smooth so that there is no force of friction. A glass ball released from a height h was observed. It was found that it rises up the same height h on the plane. Now the inclination of the plane was decreased as in the third scenario. Even after that, the height was same, and when inclination was only on the one side, then at that moment the ball was moving in a straight line. So the idea of Galileo on force and motion helped Newton to state three fundamental laws that govern the motion of objects. These three laws are known as Newton's law of motion. According to this law, everybody continues in its state of rest or uniform motion in a straight line unless compelled by some external force, that is unbalanced force, to change the state. Look at the example of the football. Initially, the football is at rest, it is not moving. But when the player kicks it, it starts moving. When it is not moving, it will not move by itself. When it start moving, then it will not stop by itself. It will stop only when it will strike with the net, like in the situation that is shown here, or if some other player come in between to stop it. Else the ball is not having any type of material inside it to stop it by itself. It needs someone to stop it, or it needs someone to give some motion to it, to apply some force. Okay, so that was the whole concept behind the inertia also. So the inertia of a body may be defined as the property of a body to resist any change in its state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line is known as inertia. Let's move on to the next slide. There I have some examples of inertia for you. Okay, in these examples you will find the working method or manner of inertia. In the first case, this gentleman on the motorcycle struck the wall. Now, because the motorcycle was in motion, but the man was not in motion, he was in rest. So his body tried to be at rest, but because motion was induced in it now, motion was forced in it, so it fell. Similarly, the person on the skateboard, he fell because his body was at rest, but that skateboard was in motion. So some because of inertia, some motion was induced in it. Now, when the skateboard stopped immediately, his body was not able to stop at the same moment. That is the reason he fell down. Inertia is very much related to the mass of an object. The larger the mass, the larger is the inertia. The smaller the mass, smaller is the inertia. Or in other words, we can say mass of body is a measure of the inertia. Like in this case, with the same force, he was able to move that boy very nicely on the swing. But when the capman was pushing the fat person with the same force, he was not able to move him very that much nicely as he moved that small boy. Okay. Another example of this giraffe Or you also have seen this, when emergency brakes are applied, you face some force, or you are pushed either in front or pushed in back. That happens because of the inertia. There are multiple examples of inertia, or multiple, I should say, multiple questions over inertia. First, for example, first is, why are passengers thrown in the forward direction when a running bus stops suddenly? Because of inertia. Why do passengers tend to fall sideways when the bus takes a sharp turn? Why should a passenger hold on to support to prevent himself from swinging in a turning bus? Why do passengers in the bus tend to fall backward when it starts suddenly? Why does a passenger jumping out of a rapidly moving bus fall forward with his face downwards if he does not run forward? Why can dust be removed from a carpet by shaking it or by beating it with a stick? Why does a bullet fired against a glass window pane makes a hole in it and the glass pane does not crack, while a stone striking the same glass pane will smash it? Why does the athlete take a longer jump if he comes running from a distance than when he jumps suddenly from the takeoff time? So these are the multiple questions which have the single answer, that is because of inertia. Before speaking about Newton's second law, first let's have a discussion on the momentum. The quantity of motion possessed by a moving body is known as the momentum of the body. I am repeating again. The quantity of motion possessed by a moving body is known as the momentum of the body. Okay. Momentum of a body is directly proportional to the mass of the body, and momentum of body is directly proportional to the velocity of the object. So what we receive here is momentum as a formula. Momentum is determined as P, and the formula becomes P is equal to M into V, mass into velocity. Okay. uh, Momentum simply means the motion possessed by a moving body. Okay, so if something is moving, then its weight has to be considered in that movement. If something is very heavy, it will move very slow. If something is very light, it will move very fast. Okay, so that is the reason momentum is considered here. So the momentum simply means mass into velocity. So according to the second law, the change in momentum of a body per unit time is directly proportional to the unbalanced force acting on the body, and the changes in momentum take place in the direction of the unbalanced force on the body. A little bit confusing? Okay, I will try with the easiest. The acceleration of an object as produced by a net force is that net force means unbalanced force. Okay, so the acceleration of an object as produced by an unbalanced or net force is directly proportional to the magnitude of the net force in the same direction as of the net force, and inversely proportional to the mass of the object. So the formula which we receive from here is A is equal to F upon M, because acceleration is directly proportional to the force, but acceleration is indirectly proportional or inversely proportional to mass. For example, suppose if a heavy truck engine of a heavy truck has to work very hard to keep that truck moving, but if same engine is applied in the small car, then the car, because its mass is very less, will be able to achieve a very high speed. That is the simple situation here, that if you increase the mass, if you increase the mass, then your acceleration will decrease, and if you decrease the mass, your acceleration will increase. So the formula which we have here is A is equal to F upon M. So the formula for force is F is equal to ma, that is force is equal to mass into acceleration. Here in the example, one car is there, uh, or I should say two objects are there. Better would be two objects are there. Okay. Initially, the object is having mass m0, and final mass is would be m1. Okay. Your time will be t0, that is for the rest, and t1 of the time which is taken by the vehicle to reach the destination. v0 is the initial speed, or at the rest it can be, or v1 is the final speed. So suppose I am moving inside, or you are moving inside a car. Now the weight of the car is not going to change, so my mass is going to remain the same. Okay. So when we talk about force is equal to change of momentum, so change of momentum means P is equal to M into V. So change of momentum, that is initial momentum minus final momentum, that is P1 minus P0. So when we deduce, or when we subtract from final momentum to that initial momentum from final momentum, the formula which we will receive is m1 v1 minus m0 v0. Okay, because v0 is representing initial velocity and v1 is representing final velocity. And with it, time is also t0 to t1. Okay, now because mass is same, so the equation which we receive is v0 minus v1, or initial minus final upon t0 minus t1. Now isn't this resembles anything? Isn't it the formula of the acceleration? The formula of acceleration is equal to v minus u by t. Now t0 minus t1 is going to be t, and v0 minus v1, that is u minus v. So we can write this whole, we can replace this whole v1 minus v0 upon t1 minus t0 to a. So the formula which we receive is F is equal to m into a, that is force is equal to mass into acceleration. So this is the way how this formula is deduced from the law, as well as through momentum. This gentleman is providing you the example of the second law of motion. The mass of the ball is going to be the same. Okay, so the force which is he is applying, if he is applying a small force, that ball is moving very to only small, covering a very small distance, and when he is applying a larger force, the ball is able to move, or a ball is able to cover a large distance. There are many applications of Newton's second law of motion. The one and the best which you should be aware about is a cricket player lowering his hands while catching the ball. If a player does not lower his hand while catching the ball, you are aware about it, the time to stop the ball is very small. So a large force will be applied, and because of it, the hand can get damaged. So in order to increase the time, what we do is we we move our hands with the ball, so that the force which is applied by the ball on our hand becomes very less. Another is a person falling on a cemented floor gets injured, but a person falling on a heap of sand is not. This is because when a person falls on a cemented floor, the rate of change of momentum is very large, because the person is abruptly stopped in a very small interval of time. Hence the person gets injured due to the application of the large force on his body due to the floor. On the other hand, when a person falls on a heap of sand, the sand yields under the weight of the person. As a result of this, the person comes to rest in a longer period of time. So the change of momentum takes place in a longer interval of time. Hence, a small force is exerted on the body of the person when he falls on heap of sand. Another is huge damage on moving train take place when it suddenly collides with a stationary train, because when a fast moving train suddenly collides with a stationary train, there is a large change in momentum of the moving train. This large change in momentum of the train is brought about in a very short interval of time. Hence, a large retarding force acts on the moving train. Due to this large force, huge damage is done to the moving train, because it is having the train obviously is having a huge amount of mass with it. Another is the vehicles are fitted with shockers. The vehicles of the floor of the vehicles is connected to a lower part of the vehicle by springs or shocker. When the vehicle move over a road, or I should say rough road, the force due to jerks is transmitted to the floor of the vehicle through the shockers. The shocker increases the time of transmission of the force or of jerk to reach the floor of the vehicle. Hence, less force is exerted by the passenger. Okay, our hand hurts more when we hit the wall with hit the wall than when we hit a sponge or we hit a pillow, because ball is solid. Okay, when we are hitting with ball will stop your hand immediately, but with a sponge or a pillow they will take some time to stop your hand. So because they are taking time, so it is decreasing the momentum. A karate player breaks a pile of tile or bricks with a single blow. When a karate player strikes the pile of tiles with his hand, he does as fast as possible. In other words, the time taken to strike the pile of the tiles is very small. As the momentum of the hand of the karate player reduces to zero when his hand strike to the pile of the tile in a very small interval of time. Okay, therefore a very large force is exerted on the pile of the tile and that large force is enough to break it. A boxer moves his head backwards when opponent blows a punch, because if he will stick his face, what will happen? His face will absorb the complete punch or the complete force from him. But if he is striking back, or if he is moving back, then his body is getting some time to absorb that force, and hence the momentum will also decrease. Okay, last and final law is third law, and third law is rather the easiest one. Every motion or third law states that for every action or force in nature there is an equal and opposite reaction. Two examples for the same are shown to you. On in one example, in the first example, the person is sitting on a wheel cart. Okay, now when he throws the ball, as because he is pushing the ball in the front direction, his body is getting pushed, or the body is getting the reaction due to which he is moving to the backward direction. Similarly, we have a best example, that is recoillation of gun. When this person try to make a shot from the gun, because of the recoillation or because of the reaction force, this gun moved backward. Okay, so this in both these examples you can find that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. There are other examples also. A ball rebounds after striking against a floor. uh, you know about this better, that ball rebounds uh, walking that is when you are walking, you are applying force on the ground, that is and the ground is also applying some force to you, that is the reason you are able to walk. Okay, action is the force exerted by on the ground by a person through his foot. Reaction, force exerted by the ground on the person. When you are swimming, you what you do is you push your body forwards, and the reaction, this is the action to push your body, but reaction is you are pushing the water backward to move forward. Okay, and if a person is trying to move from a boat to a show, he know if he's a new person, he's definitely going to fall, because when he will place his one foot on the floor, that boat, the boat will move backwards. Okay, and the person will definitely fall. So action is getting the reaction. Similar way, the rocket fuels, or the rocket, whatever the rocket which you use at the Diwali celebration, the gases apply force to the bottom, and because of the heavy gases getting released, the rocket moves upward. Okay. After third law of motion, the attached topic with it is conservation of momentum. Okay, conservation of momentum is basically related with the third law of motion, because all the concept of conservation of momentum is followed using the third law. And to definition, if I say, conservation of momentum means momentum can never be created nor be destroyed. It can only be transferred from one body to another. Okay. Look at the car. The car is moving, is having very small weight, and the truck is having very large weight. So when they both strike, the car is forced backward. Okay, the car is forced backward, and because of this backward force, we can say conservation of momentum is taking place. Okay. So basically, when two or more bodies collide, they exert force on each other. As a result, the momentum of each body changes. Now, because this truck strike the car, so truck came to a stop, and car, because it was having low mass, so it started moving. Okay, look at this snooker table or pool table, whatever you want to say it. When the person is striking the ball, middle balls are not moving, but last ball is moving, because momentum is getting transferred from every ball, and it is reaching to the last ball. Same is with this Newton's pendulum. What is happening here is, uh, when you start motion or apply motion on the first ball, when it is transferred to the last ball through all the balls in the between. Now these balls are not moving, but they are connected to each other, so the last ball have to move. Okay. Somewhat similar concept is used in that momentum's concept is used in when you are playing chess. When you are playing chess, you apply force on striker. The striker go moves forward and apply transfer its momentum into the next thing. So this is the way how things happen. Now there is a very small derivation regarding this. uh, Suppose two balls are colliding. Okay, ball A and ball B. Now ball A will when it will collide with ball B, uh, a momentum, or I should say force, of ball A will be transferred into ball B. Now taking moving one more step further, ball A was moving and ball B was stationary. Ball B was not moving. So when ball A came and it struck the ball B, whole of the energy from the ball A will be transferred to ball B, and the ball B will start moving now. So considering the same thing and applying momentum concept here, what will happen? Momentum is equal to mass into velocity. So uh, ball A was having some initial velocity, but when it strike the ball B, its velocity is lost. So now it has a new velocity, that is its final velocity of ball A. Similarly, ball B, it was at rest, so it was having no velocity. So its initial velocity, it was 0, but when it struck, it got hit by the ball A. Some momentum, or because of momentum, some energy got transferred in it, and it started moving. So now it will attain some you can say some force or some velocity. So it should be final for the ball B. taking this all on a single pane, what we can do is we can simply write A is equal to, that is A is representing the change in momentum of particle A, and B is representing change in momentum of particle B. So the formula is m into V. Now V, because V is changing, mass is not going to change. Because of the strike, but the mass of the ball is not going to change. Mass is not getting transferred. What is getting transferred? That is velocity. So we can simply write m1 into v1 minus u1. Similarly, b would be m2 is m2 into v2 minus u2. U is initial velocity and v is final velocity. Now, because of the third law of motion, we know that each action is having equal and opposite reaction. So because opposite, so one has to bear the negative charge. In this case, we are applying negative charge on FAB. So what will happen? Just putting the values of A and B in F, what will we receive? Because F is force. As F is force, we knew that from the second law that F is equal to ma, that is mass into acceleration. So just putting the value of value from here, what we receive is m2 into a2 is equal to m2. Now value of a2 would be v2 minus u2 upon t, that is divided by t, that is acceleration. Acceleration is final and velocity minus initial velocity upon t, divided by t. So I have written the symbol division. Similarly, F is equal to A into AB, that is m1 into a1, and here what we will receive is m1 into v1 minus u1 divided by t. Now because both are equal but just opposite, so minus sign is there, and putting the value in equation 1, what we are receiving here is m2 bracket v2 minus u2 divided by t is equal to minus m1 v1 minus u1 divided by t. Now because time is same for both incident, because the ball when ball A strike to the ball B, time is same. When someone is losing at the same time that other one is gaining, so time is same for both situation. So we can just remove this time, and with simple mathematical rearrangement, we will receive this formula m1 u1 plus m2 u2 and m1 v1 plus m2 v2. This formula is used for solving the numericals on this conservation of momentum, or even you can say recoilation, or any numerical on the third law of motion.